recording as of now, and let me go ahead and give you, you will be the host. Make host.
Perfect. Thank
okay.
You.
So you should be
Thank
able
you
to
so much.
share.
All right. Great. So thank you so much. Well, I am really pleased to be with you today. My name is Christina Sessoms. I have a doctor of naturopathy. I am a complementary alternative healthcare practitioner. But in addition to that, I have a master's in social work. I have a bachelor's in social work. And I really got into this field, probably as most of you got into this field, out of my own necessity. So I won't spend a lot of time telling you about my story other than to say that I have worked with children and adults with special needs since I was 14. Then I became an individual with very significant special needs, and I was paralyzed from the chest down after a surgical procedure, told I would never walk, spent 5 years in a chair. And then after that, once I learned to walk, I was told to go to hospice 5 times. And so I really found this field to save my own life. As many of you also have probably similar stories. The passion comes from within us to help others down the journey that we have also traveled, right? And I think everybody can appreciate and understand that. So one of the things that became very, very clear to me during this journey, it's interesting because I had a social work background, but I didn't go down the counseling trail at all. I actually, in the social work side, did program and project management. And yet where I have ended up in this journey is understanding the emotional connection to illness and autoimmune challenges at a very, very deep level. And why that is so important is because what I found is that no matter what supplements we had people on, and no matter how closely they followed their protocol, if we did not support them on the emotional side and help them to become healthy on the emotional side, they didn't get better. And even if they started getting better, they didn't think they were getting better. Other people would look at them and go, hey, Therese, you're doing amazing. And they would go, no, I'm not. Really, I'm doing terrible. And everyone else is like, really, you're doing great. And so we had this really unique situation going on. And so what we started doing in our practice is we developed classes that helped give them tools to deal with the emotional side, and they were optional. And so we would have some people come to us who had very, very limited income, just as an example, and they would do our classes. And in our classes, they were live classes, and we were teaching them tools about balancing your chakras, understanding energy, working with not absorbing other people's energy, working with understanding their emotions, being able to change their frequency and vibration and all these things, but they weren't doing the supplement program because of their income. And what we found is that those people excelled 1,000 times greater than the people that were just doing the supplements every single time. And so we're like, okay, well, this is really interesting. And you're nodding your head, Sheila, so you get this, right? And we found, well, this is interesting. So then we started requiring the program, and of course the two together, then we found great success. So our program is very unique because we do support people in virus, bacteria, parasites, but we also support the emotional component. And at this point in time, we do not take people on individual one-off appointments. We only take them in our comprehensive program if they do both sides. Why? Because our success rate is extremely high if they do both sides, right? So what does that look like and why does that work? Well, I think all of you understand because you use the Microbiome Labs products, which are amazing, you understand the gut-brain connection, right? I don't think there's anyone in this group that doesn't understand the gut-brain connection. And in that, obviously, as we're repairing the gut, it helps the serotonin, it helps the uptake, it helps all the neurotransmitters and all of those things. But again, if there's not a recognition of improvement, then they don't see it. So what are some of the things that we do? Well, first of all, really, like probably all of you, we're really trying to help people get to the underneath of what caused the imbalance, right? Instead of one thing fixes one thing, right? And as a chiropractor, I believe Tracy had said, Kevin, you're a chiropractor, so you certainly understand that if your knee hurts that it may probably not be your knee, it might be coming from your back or your foot or from something else. Well, the same thing is true in health, and most all of you understand that, I believe, and that when we have a gut problem, it may be caused by something else, or when we have a neurological imbalance, it may be caused by something else. So what we started doing in our program is helping people get to that underneath emotional side as well as the physical side. So what are some tools that we use to do that? One of them is EVOX. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about EVOX, how it works, why it works, and how some practitioners use it in the general market, and then how I use it, okay? Because it's very different. So first thing that I'm going to do is just share my screen, because I think it'll be a little bit easier if we walk through this. This is actually from our website, and it talks about EVOX. So EVOX really is biofeedback, and it's perception reframing. That's really what it is in a nutshell. Okay, make it as complicated as you would like. But has anybody here can think back about a positive experience you had, maybe your mother making cookies or your grandmother making cookies, and you kind of just get that smile over your face and you think, oh, that was a lovely experience, right? Well, that's the amygdala response of you smell the cookies, it was a great experience, and you feel wonderful. So the goal of this perception reframing is to get people to that, using the amygdala response and the end, to get them to the point where they feel great about a situation. And some people are probably going, really, you can feel great about everything, including trauma? Well, maybe not. Maybe they don't feel awesome about the trauma situation, but they at least would have a neutral response, okay? So there's two possible outcomes at the end of this. When we do voice mapping or perception reframing, it's for them to take a situation that caused anger, frustration, discomfort, and in the end of the process, they either have a neutral response or a positive response, okay? And those of you who understand vibration and frequency understand that if your vibration is high and your frequency is high, then your health and your wellness as well, okay? So every emotion has vibration and frequency, and what we are working on is getting them to a neutral or positive response to a situation so that their health is well. The way it works functionally, let's talk about that, and then we can kind of walk through some other pieces of it. The way it works functionally is someone puts on a pair of headphones, okay, with a speaker or with a microphone, all right, and they put their hand on a biofeedback device, okay? They listen to music, and then they listen to music, and then they receive the biofeedback through the biofeedback device, and they listen to music, then they put their hand on the biofeedback device, and they go back and forth, okay? That is how it is traditionally done, okay? And I say that in quotes because if you go to someone who does EVOX, that's what they're going to do. And in fact, so much to the point that there are many practitioners who just turn on the program and walk out the door. I mean, literally, because the client can follow through. So when they have the headphones on and the speaker, what they're doing is they're talking into the microphone. The microphone is literally picking up the vibration and frequency within the organs of the body. It is playing biofeedback through music to help balance those frequencies to provide the outcome that's desired. And the system will literally tell you that they release the pattern and then they go on. That is a traditional EVOX type session that you could do remotely or in your office. This product is actually sold by Zyto. And no, I don't get any commission or make any money off of telling you that. That's who sells the product, okay? What I'm gonna say to you is, in our process, what we do, which is very different, or what I do, and I really developed this over a period of time, is when I have someone listen to the music, I am having them do visualizations that come to me during the time. I can also I've done this long enough now, I don't need it, but I can also look at patterns, okay, on the graphs that are shown that shows where the disturbances are or the imbalances in the organs, and I can use that information that can help me be able to determine some meditations we might be able to have them use, okay? At this point in life, and one of my gifts is just being able to be in tune, I can really tell based on what's going on with the person and the person's energy, what kind of visualizations I can have them do that helps change the frequency and energy in their body, okay? So let's just kind of recap. The whole idea of EVOX is you help someone take a situation that has been difficult or traumatic in their life or creates anxiety and help them either have a neutral or a positive response at that, okay? How do you do that? You have them listen to music, you have them talk into the system shows where the imbalances are, the music and the biofeedback help to change the frequency and vibration and perception reframing within their brain, okay? Because we use the visualization portion of it, we're able to help them more actively return to the state that they accomplished during the process. So as in the beginning, when I said to you, does your mother or grandmother make cookies? And some of you smiled and went, oh yeah, that was kind of cool. You visualize that. That's how the brain thinks. The brain thinks in pictures. So I'm able to get them to then go back after we do this work and go back to that point that they visualized and relive those meditations to put themselves back into that situation where they were successful in being able to release whatever these emotions are. Does that make sense? Okay, because if they really just walked away and listened to music, they'd go, okay, well, that was great. So as I was saying, it's not effective as the way it was written. I think it's effective. I think it's a whole lot more effective if we can help the brain, which thinks in pictures, right? And we experience emotion to re-experience that. We go a step further and using essential oils and helping them seal in that amygdala response of success. And so do we do this with every client? We don't, but what I will say is that we use this a whole lot with first responders. We use this a whole lot with people who have been through divorce, trauma, losing a child, a parent, things of that nature. Excuse me. And I will also tell you a lot of counselors send people to me. And some people would say, well, that's really odd because they do counseling. Yes, but if you understand that from a counseling perspective, what happens is oftentimes people don't move through. They just relive the same situation over and over. I mean, how many of you have clients or know someone that talks about their mother who died 5 years ago and they talk about it every day as if the mother is alive today? They are reintroducing the energy today as if she died today, and their body thinks she died today. I mean, they're just reliving it. So one of the reasons that I find that this is very successful is that counselors and other professionals, especially first responders, physicians, etc., are never really taught how to release emotion from the body. They're just taught, you go to counseling, you talk about it, and all of a sudden it goes away, except that it doesn't really ever go away. And so I did this here a while back with a physician, an MD, and what she said is one session was more effective than 2 years of counseling. It's not an uncommon comment that I get. So sometimes people also come to me and we do this process because they come for a business reason, that they're stuck through abundance or and other challenges in their business life, and they yet have not realized that their body, mind, soul, and spirit is one person. So their business body doesn't sit in the right-hand corner of the room and their rest of their body sits in the left-hand corner of the room. And in this process, they learn they're integrated, which many of you probably understand if you have clients that that is a difficult process, but you know, it's a topic we often have in our office. So I do this remotely. I can do it with anyone in the country. I will tell you there's some limitations. Number one, it only works on a PC. Does not work on a Mac. Okay. I can also tell you, Windows 10 has been a lovely challenge because there are drivers that you have to have for Windows 10, You don't have to have for Windows 7. And so if you decide you're going to go down this process and you're going to purchase the equipment, I would urge you probably to purchase a small laptop and ship it, and then just hold the balance for someone if you're shipping it to someone that's not computer literate, because they have to download drivers and they have to know if they're on 7 or 10. I'm just telling you. That's one of the disadvantages. If you're dealing with people that are computer literate, it's not a problem. Okay. I will tell you I have a rule in our practice, and that is if we are dealing with sexual abuse, severe trauma, I have people that fly here to see me. I won't do it remotely. Just because the bottom line is that somebody can end up in a really significant situation where they are, let's see. Somebody can end up in a really significant situation where they are in a abuse situation with their abuser, right? So you just have to be really aware and conscious of who you're providing a release and support to and what kind of situation they are in at the time. Is that safe? And then what kind of follow-up support? I always tell people after they do an EVOC session that it can be anywhere between 30 minutes and 2 hours. I've done it with people right after suicide in a family, and it was a 3-hour session, okay? But I always tell them it's kind of like having 3 to 6 massages. And so treat your body well, drink lots of water, do grounding, things of that nature. So before we move on and talk about some other tools, does anybody have questions about this topic? Was this helpful?
Yes,
What
Christina.
kinds of thoughts or questions do you have?
Yeah, there's a comment in the chat from Debbie. I'll read it for you. She says, do you get a package of sessions
Perfect.
or do you assess one by one as you go as to how many sessions the person will need?
That's really a great question. So I typically sell them in sessions of 4, okay? I will do a one-off session for someone, but I will tell you this, I've never had a person do 1 session and then before they leave, don't say, I'll buy the package of 4, because they really enjoy it and they find that it's beneficial. I also can do intergenerational sessions. Those sessions, you must buy a package of 12 because we want you to move through the whole process of intergenerational release. It's kind of like I don't want you to get to the middle of your delivery of your baby and then go, oh, sorry, my legs are closed, I'm not having this child, right? We want you to really move through the process of 12. How often, I think it depends on what you're working on, okay? It also depends. I'm going to give you guys a couple of examples. So I had a client 2 weeks ago that came in for an EVOC session, and literally she had a really short session. It was only 30 minutes, and she released. This person is extremely emotional and literally says, I'm sorry 100 times a day to people, and emotional stability is a real challenge. And she really thought she was going to come in here, have this huge emotional breakdown because it was her first session, and she's going to be here for 3 hours. Her body was only willing and able to release a little bit and kind of let the steam off, okay? If she had released a whole lot more than that, it would have been too much for her body. So she did an emotional release in 30 minutes and she was totally shocked. I wasn't shocked at all, right? Her expectation was she was going to come have this avalanche. Well, there's an avalanche in there. She's not ready to come out yet, okay? Then I have another person who, she's a professional and she had done 3 sessions. I've worked a lot with people that are Amish, who have left the Amish community. And for those of you who are not aware, there's a lot of sexual trauma and other things that often go on in the Amish community, although there's a lot of great benefits to the community. There's some trauma and challenges and other things. And so she had done 3 great sessions. She came in for her 4th session and said, okay, I'm here, I'm super excited, I've had really great sessions and I don't think I have anything to talk about. And she's a business owner, and I said, okay, what is your goal for the next 6 months? And she gave me her goal, and we started the session around that. And suddenly self-worth and all these other things came up, and she had a huge breakthrough. And when she got done, she's like, I'm totally shocked. I had no idea. And it's because everything is a ball of yarn. right? So all of our emotions and our life experiences and everything is a ball of yarn. And so what I want to say is, if we're dealing with someone in a trauma, I don't have them relive the trauma. All right. If they were raped, I do not want them to sit here and rediscuss the rape. But they probably felt like they didn't have control. They probably felt worthless. They may feel very angry. They may feel taken advantage of. Well, where else in their life did they have those emotions? Somewhere in their life they had those emotions, because it's a ball of yarn and we're all wrapped together. So we can just tap into the emotion, and I can have them tap into the emotion without reliving the experience. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Debbie, did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Christina,
So what I do what?
what about, have you had experience using evox with animals? I mean, not evox, but just Zyto,
So
say in particular.
Yes. Yeah. So I have experience with Zyto with animals. I'll talk a little bit for a minute or two about actually doing trauma work with animals, because I support animals as well. And I have a local vet that I work with. And the reason I support animals is because, quite frankly, there's a lot of the same challenges people have, because their diets for the most part are pretty similar and poor quality to what many people eat. We feed raw and have for a very long time, but I have a service dog. I'm actually hearing impaired and wear cochlear, and I have a service dog that was left in a crate for the first 4 months of his life, and he stood like this. And so we did a lot of trauma work with him. And the interesting thing is, I actually did this process with him, and you do it a little different because you have to have a surrogate. But you can do energetic work with animals just as you can do with people. So you can MRT for those who do muscle response, and you can MRT with animals. You can do homeopathics with animals. You can do, he gets chiropractic work. We do acupuncture with him. So all the same tools that you guys use for people can be used with animals. So, and Zyto is one of those, although we use the avatar as well, Tracy, for bioenergetics. But so these, you may see here a lot of the perception index zones. These are not going to be things that are going to be shocking to you. Unacknowledged, repetitive thinking, sadness, emotionally disconnected, self-critical, conditional love, anger, fearful, overwhelmed, suppressed, unworthy, undeserving, rigid, and conflicting benefits. I mean, I think most people can say that they have things in those categories, or they know, have clients that have things in those categories, and they all intermingle. And so it doesn't really matter where you start. In fact, one thing I tell our clients when we start this process is, if you get so choked up that you really can't talk, you can say the word tree, and they can just repeat the word tree for the 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes on the segments where you're talking, because it's picking up the vibrations in your voice. It isn't picking up and recording your words anyway. And the other thing is that the rivers always move. So if you cry, let it out. The river's gonna flow, you're gonna be fine. And the last thing that I'm gonna say, and this is really practitioner to practitioner for those of you who are practitioners, my notes when I do this are very simple. Session about father, session about child, whatever. There are no notes. And the reason for that is because of liability. If you got called into a court session or someone asked you, I have no idea. I do thousands of sessions. I do hundreds of sessions. I don't know. It was a session about their father. It doesn't record their voice, and we go on. This is not therapy, and we aren't offering counseling. Period, end of story. So you guys do what you want to do with that, but that's just kind of a comment, because you may get put in a position sometimes where you would have to answer a question. And if it's your practice that you're not recording anything and you're not providing counseling, this is perception reframing, and then there's no questions to answer. There's nothing you can say. So does that help as well? Okay. All right. So I want to talk for a couple of minutes about some other tools that we use in our practice that might be helpful to you. It's how you handle your coaching clients, Chris. Yeah, it's, I think it's really valuable and important to have hands off in some of those situations. So, and sorry, I couldn't see your chats earlier to make the screen large enough to see all of you and see the side screen. I had to close the chat. So thank you for reading that, Tracy. What I want to talk about again is a couple of other things that we do in our practice to try to help clients. One of them is Godbox. And in short, Godbox really is a process to help clients write out what is of concern to them. Okay, so I have some rules. One of them is you can't let anyone else read it. And I mean your spouse. I mean, you can't go to them and say, hey, I wrote this, whatever, I want to talk to you about it. And then they have to burn it because the brain lets go of things whenever it's burned. Okay. And they can never keep journals in their house that have anything in them except for something positive. So if they have all these old journals, like I've had clients before that they have 25 journals under their bed or 50 journals under their bed. And when you ask them, what's in those journals? Is this like your daily comments, positive, negative? Often what they say is, well, it's everything. Okay, well, the first thing I have to do is go burn all of them because they're sleeping in energetic soup. And so I've not found a client who was unwilling to do that once you explain that to them, and then they feel a lot better. And so if they want a journal, they can do a journal about gratitude. Or positive things, but anything that is has a negative or lower vibration or frequency, I ask them to burn. And I also really explain to them that for the first 5 to 8 minutes when they sit down to write, because I've had men say to me, I don't journal, I don't write. And then they message me and say 5 hours later, yeah, I was still writing, right? First 5 to 8 minutes, your brain's very protective. And so people are like, I don't know what to write. I said, write that. I don't know what to write. This is stupid. This is dumb. This is whatever. In 5 to 8 minutes, your brain relaxes and then stuff just starts pouring out. And you don't need to worry about punctuation and all these other things because you're going to burn it, right? So who cares? So that's a tool. And that's kind of, some of our clients call that the home e-box, for lack of a better way to describe that. And it is a tool that we have them do often. And so I will share a story with you. We had a client who I had worked with for 18 months that had all kinds of emotional challenges. And literally every time she was upset, she had diarrhea in about 10 seconds, which, you know, IBS, the engineer's stomach, the whole thing. And she was getting better, but she just wasn't seeing it. And she had not done our classes. She was very resistant to that. And this was quite a long time ago. And she came in one day and she was talking, and 45 minutes later, I just looked at her and I said, how often are you doing Godbox? She says, why? I said, well, it's the first time you've been here in 18 months, you haven't bitched for the first 45 minutes. And she goes, well, I'm doing it 5 days a week. I said, oh, imagine that. So what I can tell you is that it can be very powerful if they use it, and you can call it whatever you want to call it. We have a Christian practice, and while I don't force my beliefs on anyone, we call it Godbox in our practice. So if you want to call it positive journaling or release journaling or whatever you want to call it, that's certainly your prerogative. So before we move on, who has other kinds of questions or thoughts, or is this helpful information?
Yes.
Feel free to unmute yourself and okay. All right. I believe some of you got the brain humming attachment. Did some of y'all get that in your invite? Okay. Well, I'm going to show it to you, and then I will make sure that it gets emailed back. It gets emailed out to you, so that we can at least talk about it. So, brain humming. The reason that I talk about this is many of you may be familiar with the silver cord. And the Bible is referred to as it's referred to in Corinthians. But brain humming really helps to calm down the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. It is used a lot to help people with anxiety, and it really it came about from Jim Donovan. But it is a very simple way, without any tools and without any money invested, to help your clients to come to a state of calmness. And why would that be important? Well, of course, the calmer you are, the easier it is for you to digest food, the better it is for your immune system, and on and on and on we can go. And so this is a tool that we help our clients with, and the short and sweet of it is they are vocalizing the words or the syllables E, and they can place their hands right here on the sides of their throat to do that, and there is a breathing process with it. It's actually the vagal nerve stimulation, which is huge in your immune system. It is great in body repair, and for those of you who have not studied the vagal nerve, this is a fascinating topic. So I will let Tracy share this with you for those of you who did not get it. In our practice, we are really focused on helping and empower our clients. So at the end of our program, our clients fire us. We have a full program from beginning to end and a wraparound, in the sense that our clients are independent. They're able to MRT their own supplements. They have a blueprint. Some of our men call it the owner's manual. And so it's the owner's manual of your body. So they know what to do when they're feeling well. They know what to do when they're not feeling well. They know what to do to protect their energy. They understand how to balance their own body. And so with that concept, we give them lots of tools. And I often tell them in the beginning that I want them to focus on tools that they don't have to have or buy anything to use. Okay? Because they have their body with them at all times. So what can you do with your own body without having to have something? Because oftentimes when people start going down the holistic journey, it's what can I buy? What can I have? What can I this? What can I that? And if they have their body with them and they can do things like brain humming to calm their anxiety, then that's simple. Chris said, we call it putting it in a God can, because God can take care of it, representing surrendering a prayer or a wish and stop trying to control it. Also, in here, they will read them and be amazed how much is a past and healing because they let it go and trust. A little different, but still helpful. Yes, Chris, I think that's a great idea. One thing that I might add, just from an energetic standpoint, that might be a twist that you could try, and it would be interesting if you tried it with your clients who did it the old way and then maybe tried this to see energetically how that works, is burning it and letting it go and letting the brain let it go, and then rephrasing it in a positive way and putting that in the God can. So that when they reread that later, it's in a positive context, and what they let go is a negative context. And you may be doing that already, but that would be a thought from an energetic standpoint. So I think one of the big key pieces that I would want to share with you is it doesn't matter what the tool is, whether it's supplements or whether it's a tool to support the emotions. If we forget about the power of the mind, then we miss the boat. And many people say that it's all about just being positive. But I'm going to say to you that I think it's a step further than just being positive. It's really about choosing which side of the pancake that you're going to look at. And I'm going to share a story with you that I have talked about recently with one of our clients. We talk a lot in our practice about manifesting and focusing on what you want as if it's already existed and things of that nature. And this person said, well, I feel like I'm lying if I focus on something that I want as if it already existed. And so I'm just going to use the example of a car, all right? If she says, well, I have this Mercedes that I don't have, and we're not talking about health in this situation, but you could use the same thing, or I feel like I'm already healthy, but I'm not, so I'm lying, right? And so I asked her, I said, do you remember having a Sears and Roebuck catalog? Kind of tells my age, but she did. And so we talked about that, and I said, when you had the Sears and Roebuck catalog and you turned out every page of everything that you wanted and you played through your mind of having all these things and you were 5 and you were so excited and you had those emotions, were you lying? And she said, no, she wasn't lying. She felt it. She played it. She had it. And I said, well, it's the same thing. Because what's really what you're doing is you're choosing to let your mind experience the emotions of something that you want to obtain as if you've already obtained it. Is that lying? Or is it a choice? Is it a perception of which side of the pancake you wish to choose? Okay, so a lot of what we do with our clients is mindset reframing. And that's really what it is. So on one side of the pancake is, I don't have my health. The other side is, I have my health. If they're constantly focusing on what I don't have, then they can't enjoy what they do have. Okay, and it sounds really simple, but in reality, I think we can all agree it isn't as simple as it sounds, and it takes daily work. And so step by step and helping them kind of understand that. And helping them understand the energy and the frequency that goes with that negative emotion. So that kind of brings me to another tool that we use in our program. How many of you have heard of binaural beats? Okay, do you use them? Okay, they're very effective and they're almost free. If you go on YouTube, you can buy YouTube Premium. For those of you who are on Android, it's like $9.99. Those of you who are not on iPhone, it's like $12.99. Sorry, that's an agreement between Google and iPhone. You'll have to talk to them. But so binaural beats, binaural, of course, means 2. And so there's one sound that goes in one ear, there's one sound that goes in the other ear, and then they become one sound. In 5 minutes with headphones, that is effective. In 30 minutes in open air, that is also equally effective. And so what's happening is, Debbie, yes, I love them too. They help change your body's frequency. And so why I suggest that you do them on YouTube Premium is Bob the Mattress Factory commercial, which somehow is 10 times louder than what it is that you wanted to listen to, that comes on 2 minutes after you've been listening to binaural beats for stress reduction. You don't have to listen to Bob the Mattress Factory, and you can also turn your phone off in terms of the screen. So if you're running this for a 10 or 12 or 8-hour overnight session, you don't want your screen on all night, okay, and you also don't want to hear Bob the Mattress Factory. So you can listen to binaural beats for anything, for pain relief, for stress. And in fact, NASA, if you want to go do some research, NASA uses it. And I always laugh and say, if I was in a spaceship, you'd have to have more than binaural beats because I feel kind of claustrophobic. And but they do use it in many ways. So I tell clients all the time, and today the world's a little bit different. A lot of people are working from home, but I always tell them, look, if you can have your headphones on for 5 minutes on your phone, you can totally change your vibration and frequency. So if you're feeling anxious or you're feeling irritated or you're feeling pain, like you're in pain, you can change your vibration and frequency in 5 minutes. Go sit in the bathroom with your headphones on. Everyone else has their phone in the bathroom. You might as well have your phone in the bathroom doing something productive. So, or go for a walk or go outside your car or whatever. But it's just a way that you can, it's a really pretty inexpensive tool. One of the other reasons that I like the ones on YouTube is that there's thousands and thousands and thousands of them. And what works today might not work tomorrow. I will mention a couple of things. If you're going to use this at night, and you're going to suggest that clients use it at night, make sure that both parties, if there's 2 parties co-sleeping, whether it's a spouse or a child or whatever the co-sleeping arrangement is, make sure they both are in agreement with the sound frequency of the distribution of the entire play set. Okay, so let me explain why that is. So I'm hearing impaired, and when I take my cochlear off, I don't hear anything. Okay, my husband, who's a very light sleeper, has no problem with them being on, but he wants a constant sound. Because if the sounds go up and down, then he doesn't sleep well, right? And I'm not sleeping with headphones on, although I will say people who are hearing impaired feel the vibrations even if they can't hear them, which is kind of an important point. But if you're gonna do it in a co-sleeping environment, I would just suggest that you have, you make sure, so you can kind of just skip ahead in the 8 or 12 hours. Another tool that you can use is pink noise. There is an app on the phone, the Android and the iPhone, called White Noise. It is a free app, although there's an upgrade version that you can also have. Pink noise also supports the vagal nerve. And I personally find, because I listen to that at night, that I need it to stop an hour and a half before I get up in the morning. And so I set it on the timer on that White Noise app. There's a timer, and I have it stop for an hour and a half before I get up. Again, what does that do? Well, it helps calm the central nervous system, right? And it helps central nervous system repair, and it helps immune system. So it helps whenever I get up in the morning to start the day in the best health possible. So all of these are tools that we use to help our clients get to the underneath support as we're helping them get to the underneath of what the real issue is. So what I believe is that supplements are a tool, and they're a great tool when they're used well, but this whole other side of support is often forgotten in our society and many programs, and that really what we do is we help people with food, water, and supplements, which I think are all great. Oh, and by the way, we help them poop, which I think is amazing as well. And everybody in our program is pooping 2 to 3 times a day within 4 to 6 weeks, and people just look at me and shake their head, and I said, well, we don't do detox till you're pooping. So, but again, even constipation has an emotional tie, right? So if we're not supporting the emotions, then we're really not moving them. So, thoughts, questions?
I think that's been amazing, Christina. Thank you so much. And, you know, I'm going to ask if there's any questions. If anybody wants to, you know, tap into Christina's amazing bank of knowledge on this subject. Okay, because I want to share.
Hey, Tracy and Christina. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, it's Chris. It's Chris. So I was actually curious about the thought was triggered when you mentioned constipation. What about like for hormonal times, the 1 week or so out of the month or that kind of thing, when women will get constipated, or you know, to do with PMS, and you're trying to balance everything, but then they're also moody and you know, all the other lovely things that go along with it. So I was just curious if you had any thoughts on things that would, you know, help to smooth that a little bit.
I absolutely do. So first of all, that's a liver issue, okay? Every single time, because if your liver isn't balanced, your hormones don't work. And so I would use Bulpurum by Planetary Herbal. Not only will you poop very well, it's a great tool for PMS. Excuse me, it's called a liver detox is actually what it is. And so that would be my recommendation. We use it in our practice all the time. I also personally use it when I travel, just because I eat differently and I'm exposed to different things, and it helps with liver detox. So great question, Chris. In terms of books, are there books that I can help recommend for helping clients with the emotional side? Well, there is a book list that I have. I can get it to Tracy with some recommendations, and she can email it to y'all if that would be helpful. One of the things that I will also say is that I mentor practitioners all the time. and help them through this process and figure out how to put emotional supports in their program. And also we take people in our classes from other practitioners. So if you have a great program that works, let's say you focus on weight release and you have an amazing program, but you realize within weight release, you don't have the emotional component, you are welcome to make an agreement with us and send your clients. In our classes, we don't discuss any personal protocols at all. It is only, and we don't do group counseling either, just so that you're aware. So it's only about tools, and they could come to our class and then go back to see you for individual support. So we do that. We work with practitioners in different ways based on what is helpful for you.
Excellent. Any more questions? Now's your opportunity.
I have a question. What if they have, like my husband had a stroke, a brain bleed, 2 surgeries to get it under control. But now he's very, very depressed, has no motivation, and it looks like he's tipping towards dementia, but I really think it's his insecurities that are causing him to shut his brain down.
Yeah.
So,
there's emotional, well, first of all, I'm really sorry. I know that has to be very difficult. So he's fortunate to have someone like you who's a bright light in his life and really supports him. What I'm going to say is that there's a lot of emotional support in homeopathics that work well together to support that, as well as oftentimes what we find is people are low in potassium. Magnesium seems to be the Dr. Google go-to for everything. When the potassium is low, and we can see it in our spit and pee tests that we do, which we ship door to door across the country. But when the potassium is low, what we see is anxiety, depression, dementia, Alzheimer's. We also see inability to process protein. And again, these are liver issues. But there's a lot of different things from a supplement standpoint. One thing that you may also try is playing pink noise in your house. Now, I will say, I didn't think of this earlier. Please don't play pink noise or binaural beats while you're driving. Okay? You're really, I mean, honestly, I had a client that said, oh, well, this is so great while I'm driving. I said, yeah, that is not a good idea. Okay? You're changing your central nervous system. It really, oh, well, it feels so good. Okay, well, please don't do that. So, but if offline, Sheila, I can be of assistance, please reach out to me and I'll be happy to try to give you some guidance for that.
thank you.
Super. Anyone else?
Thank you, Tracy. This is fun.
Okay, I'm gonna
Thoughts on EFT?
go ahead.
I'm sorry, there was a question here. Thoughts on EFT? I think EFT is great. We teach tapping in our program. We teach it to our clients. We also do AFT. There's all kinds of different protocols, but I gave you a small snippet of some stuff that we teach, but we certainly do teach it. And I think it's an amazing tool.
Super. Okay, so I'm going to shut off the recording now.